Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here in this conversation. First, I'd like to extend my thanks to Friends Photobook and the Arle Books Fair to make it happen of this conversation, which is with the title of today is Mapping Visions, Making Pages, Photographic Practices and Photobook Markets in Asia-Pacific. So my name is Zhen Xi. I am the founder of La Maison des Arts. We are a French-based publishing house working a lot with visual arts and photography, and also indie publications in Asia. And I'm very honored to have my two guests today here with me, Hildy Lau from Hong Kong Photobook Festival, and also the chair lady of Lu- Lumen Museum, sorry, and also Mark Pearson, founder of Zen Photo Gallery, as well as the co-founder of Sha bookshop in Tokyo. I think it's very interesting because Heidi and Mark has never met before this year, right, in person. But both of them has helped to shape the photo book scene in Hong Kong. Mark initiated the photobook fair in Hong Kong before the pandemic time, and after COVID, Heidi took hand of the Hong Kong Photo Book Festival. So I'd like to start from my very first question to both of you, that what brought you to the photo book?
Thank you very much, Jen. Nice to see friends and hopefully more friends in the audience. So what brought me to the photo book world was, first of all, I was taken to Japan for various reasons, but mostly that they were personal reasons, in that I married a Japanese lady, and then that took me to Japan. And it was only after spending quite a long time living in Japan that I became interested in the photography world. And I joined a collaborative or cooperative gallery in Shinjuku in Tokyo back almost 20 years ago, I suppose. And that took me into the Japanese photography world and properly into the photography world for the first time. And after spending some years discovering this interesting, fascinating world, then I had this crazy idea to start a gallery. And so I opened the gallery in Tokyo, in Shibuya, in 2009. And my concept for the gallery was to introduce Japanese and all across the whole of Asia. That's why I chose the name of Zen to represent this idea which had been transmitted across the whole of Asia. So at the time also, one of my sons was living and working in China. So I was very much interested in China in general, but also the art and photography world in China. I was able to make several visits. So I think I was not the first gallery to introduce Chinese photography. I would say that went to my friend and mentor, Mr. Ishihara, of Zeit Photo Gallery in Tokyo. And actually, my name of Zen is partly in homage to Mr. Ishihara's Zeit Photo. He actually was the first person to introduce Chinese photography into Japan. When we started making the exhibitions, we invited both Japanese and Chinese photographers to come and show their work in our gallery. And my start with photo books was rather accidental, because my intention was just to make a very small catalogue of the photographs which were in the exhibition. And as we continued to do the exhibitions and continued to make a small catalogue or monograph regarding those exhibitions, it gathered momentum. It gathered much more momentum than I had anticipated, and we ended up making many books. And I think up to now is probably approaching 200 books, including the monographs. And as the years went by, with this increase in momentum, we found ourselves making more substantial photo books. So I hope that answers your question. How I got involved with photography books.
It's super interesting because even has been many years that I know about your work and the photo gallery, but I don't know the initial part of how it comes, the gallery and the story with that gallery. That is something really interesting. Thank you, Mark. And for Healy, also the Hong Kong Photo Book Festival that I had my honor to be part of it this year in May. It's my first time lining up and presenting our books in Hong Kong market. And I'm very curious about the local community and how the city, it shapes your practice.
I will describe myself as a photography lover and love to take photos and visit exhibitions since our high school. And my photo book journey begins very gradually, shaped by early exposure to key events in Hong Kong, like Mark's Hong Kong Photo Book Fairs and Hong Kong Art Book Fairs. As I remember at that time, Hong Kong people question about what photo book is. They may get an idea about the photo book, maybe a photographer's monograph or just exhibitions catalog. But when I have a visit in before the COVID to Taiwan, I met curator educator who are very engaged in photo book culture, and he inspired me, and I opened up my mind to take an other perspective about the photography, the presentation of photographies. Since then, my interest has grown not only in the photo book as an objects, but in wider ecosystem around them, from the creations into circulations from local practice and regional dialogue. And about the how the city shaped our practice, my practice, I would say that Hong Kong's is a very unique geopolitical positions as a bridge between the East and the West, and has deeply influenced my practice because the city is where multiple cultures and perspective coverage offering fertile ground for creative exchange. And the rapid pace of change in Hong Kong, coupled with its history and socio-political dynamics, also shaped how photo books are created, circulate, and received. And these elements inspire me to create events and projects that reflect both local specificity and broader region narratives.
Thank you, Hildy, for your explanation. And also, we know that Tokyo and or even Japan has a very special environment of the photography as well as the photo book community, right? And I traveled to Japan April. I spent 5 weeks in Tokyo trying to understand a little bit how it works there. Even I have to say I am Chinese originally, and as a nation, I do feel there are some barriers for foreigners who don't know the rules. So, Mark, could you explain us a little bit with your expertise what makes the whole environment, the community, and also the photo book market special in Tokyo or in Japan in a larger way?
So in Japan, what makes the photo book special, or how, what is its status? I think, there are several countries which have a long and rich tradition of the photo book, especially France, USA, perhaps, but many countries do. But I think in Asia, arguably, Japan has the longest and deepest tradition. And I think that's because, first of all, when photography was introduced into Japan in the 19th century, it became a very popular medium, just as it was in UK, France, and USA. So Japan adopted this medium very early and very enthusiastically. And in addition to that, although Japan has been through, the very difficult times in the 1930s, during the Second World War and afterwards, actually photography remained a very important medium even during that imperialistic time, even during the wartime and after the war. Photography was very widely appreciated and disseminated, and in fact, you will find photo books which were made, pre-war, during war, as part of the propaganda effort. So some of Japan's greatest photographers of the 20th century, like Kimura Ihei, he was involved with the production of wartime propaganda. And then, so I think this uninterrupted use of photography is very important in Japan. And then, as we all know, Japan became a major producer of cameras. So Canon, Nikon, Olympus, Pentax, the list goes on. And it was a big market in Japan. So not only selling these cameras for the rest of the world, but it was a very big market inside Japan. And in addition to that, there was a very big ecosystem in Japan of the photography magazines. So Japan had these magazines like the Kamera Mainichi or the Asahi Kamera. Again, many magazines were produced. And in those days of, let's say, the 1960s, 1970s, they would regularly sell 20 or 30,000 copies. So it was a very, very popular medium and obviously very profitable. And the newspapers like the Asahi newspaper and the Mainichi newspaper, they would also have the color weekly or monthly supplements, a little bit like the Time or the Life magazine. So Japan had its equivalents, and some of the photographers that we have shown at Zen Photo Gallery, like Kitai Kazuo or Hashimoto Shoko, we're showing his photographs in Arles this week. They were commissioned by the photography magazines or these weekly magazines to actually go out and take photographs to be published. And because they were selling so many magazines, they were able to, pay them well enough. And in addition to that, I think alongside that was developed the photo book. And in particular, although photograph books have been created in Japan for, a century or more, going back to the pre-Second World War times, it really took off, I would say, in the 1960s and 70s. And that was the era that has been, more celebrated recently with the photographers like Daido Moriyama or, Tomatsu Shomei and Araki. It really became a very strong movement in the 1960s. And at the same time, they used some very, very good printing techniques like lithographic printing, and they were able to create very beautiful books. Chris, I should mention that your inspiration, Narahara Ikko, there were, one after the other, some very tremendous artists and creating very, very beautiful works, and so that tradition, I think, is I wouldn't see it as a particular reason why it suddenly emerged, because to me, Japan has a very long and very rich history, which is a continuous history, and there are many factors contributing to that history.
I think I have a follow-up question according to what you just said. It's super interesting. We all know that the pandemic since 2020 has reshaped a lot of things. So does some new form of art collective or artist run spaces dedicated to publication and photo books that I have visited in my last trip in Japan. And do you feel the general energy of photo books or the photo book market has changed or evolved now? What is happening?
Well, it's interesting that if you feel there has been a change, I'm very interested to hear your perspective on that. My feeling in terms of the energy surrounding the photo book market is I don't see that changing yet so quickly. But on the other hand, I do think it will change in the next decade. I'm not sure whether you want to go into that now, but I think the photography will change, first of all, because things always change. Fashions and trends, what is popular one decade becomes passé in the next decade. And when certain trends go on for a very long time, they become tired, and then they become, what was popular at one time, 10 or 20 years later, becomes very unpopular, because the world and the human psychology is like that. I also think that photography is not standing in isolation, but photography stands in relation to society and culture, and that is evolving. Photography evolves alongside that. I won't necessarily say much more, but I think simply that the world is going to change tremendously in the next 10 to 20 years, and it has to change. Photography will follow that.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I do observe that little change vibe during my last trip because there is only one thing brought me to Tokyo that I flew 15 hours to the city as there was a new project raised since last year, if my memory is correct, called Squat. It's a site in a little bit outside of Tokyo that takes something like 40 minutes to 1 hour by train, and it's surrounded by a architecture and one of the biggest distributor in art in Japan, I think, called 12 Books, and they co-own that space, which is an abandoned train station operated by JR, and they totally changed the architecture structure, and then they get involved all the art books from all over the world, and it could be there's also a vinyl shop and coffee, and a lot of events are there. I was just so curious about this type of structure, how it works and how it survive or even thrive, because every weekend you jump onto the train, you see young people, young generation, and the artwork. I call myself like art workers. We just go there, spend the whole day from morning to the evening, and after they close, people still stay in there chatting, exchanging information, and doing things. I think it is really a very vivid vibe there that I do feel something is emerging. So does I heard other projects in the similarity in Tokyo, in Saduchi, and in many other cities. That is something I think I don't see that much here in France. And the same thing that I discovered the similar energy in Hong Kong this year when I was in Hong Kong Photo Book Festival, that I met a lot of young generation. I call them, they are not only artists or photographers, they are more like creators in multi-disciplines. They make zines, they make a collaboration, they make a reading club for photo books. They even use what they can use as buildings or rooms, borrow rooms from school to do the programs. This is something I think really new to me. So I'm also curious for Hong Kong, that how has the city changed in terms of the audience, the energy, and the young generation get involved in publishing?
Yeah, I can see that's the community, the photo book community is still small, but it's highly energetic. And what stands out is the resilience and the creativity of local practitioners who often work with some limited resources to produce high quality and innovative works. And sometimes many photographers take many multiple roles as editors, designers, publishers, which leads to highly personal and experimental works. And I think the market is, although it's rich, but it's start growing, especially among the younger audience, as you say that, who are interested in the physical media and alternative narrative beyond the mainstream channels. And there are strong emphasis on the independent publishing. And for the audience, and I can see that there's a growing awareness and appreciation for the photobooks among the Hong Kong audience. But back in the early days of the Hong Kong book fairs, many attendants just really read the book and maybe judge it by the printing or the cover design, and they always don't aware the narrative or the concepts layer behind the work. But that's a lot, change a lot, because we have many programs, events that bring the audience, the young, especially the younger audience, to know more about, to get more knowledge about the photo book, what definition is, what that the sequencing and the editing is. One more observations by my observations is the young photographers or the artists make their work DIY, and because the cost of producing a photo book is high, the printing cost is high, and if they do DIY, the cost may be lower, and that resonate with the younger audience. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true because I do follow it's a little bit out of Hong Kong, but they are also one of the participants during this year's edition of Dialect from Macau. I met them because one of the co-founder of this publishing collective, he used to study in UK in London for almost a decade, and then he went back to Macau, right, and co-founded the Dialect. They print by themselves and do the banding and everything by themselves and distribute by themselves as a multi-role. But what I do see, which involves is once this generation who went abroad and coming back to their homeland, they try to get involved more in the educational scene. For example, that person we're talking, the founder of Dialect, he's also teaching in Macau University, and he's also running the library. And also in your festival, I think there is one word dedicated to the students in art school for photo book, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about the festival itself, that how it applies according to all the different audience and to the cultural policy? Because we know, maybe some of us wondering how the cultural policy it is in Hong Kong.
The cultural policy has changed because, since 1929, 1919, the cities undergone the dramatic change or transformations from the large protests to the implementation of national security law. And unfortunately, we are one of the organizations that we can't get the funding from the government anymore because we touch the online the red line. There's a red line. You don't know up and down sometimes, and the atmosphere for creating words, the artwork may not be how can I say, Yeah. The artists may be so confident in present or to express themselves. They use another strategy. Maybe they talk indirectly or in a subtle or poetic way, poetic way, and that's the cultural scenes under nowadays political conditions. What our festival do is to promoting the photobook culture, to have another way for the youngest to present their work in another book form, and we have a dummy award, and the shortlist of dummy award can circulate. To have two exhibitions, so their work can be travel outside, even though their subject matters is somehow sensitive. They can circulate outside and let people out let people out the outsider know Hong Kong's situations, political, cultural situations. Yeah.
And speaking of the condition and the policies, I do think I don't think there's any limitation in Japan, right, Mark?
And there are some limitations, but not very severe actually. So just for us, one book we printed back in about 2009. We printed in Taiwan, and when it was shipped to Japan, it was stopped by the customs and everything was destroyed because of the content. But that was more because of nudity. But that's the only experience I would say we had any problem with sort of official censorship. To some extent, yes, there are some books we made which we cannot ship to China or to Hong Kong, and as I think you said, Hildy, there's a red line, but we don't know exactly where the red line is or where the red line will be interpreted, and therefore it leads to self-censorship. This is a problem for us, of course. It's not only a problem for China and Hong Kong. To some extent, there is censorship and self-censorship all over the world now.
Seems I have a more microphone problem than the censorship problem today. Which is true, I think, across a lot of countries in East Asia, or not only East Asia, but Asia in a large sense, that we all have this more or less soft or hot bond from censorship for one reason or another. So besides of that, yeah.
But may I add a comment?
Yeah, sure.
Because it's not all bad.
No.
Because I think when there is censorship and when there is self-censorship, I think it encourages creativity, because when we look to the example of the Soviet Union, there were great restrictions on what people could say and do, but it created an interesting subculture of jokes and publications and a very subtle allusion to the problems. So I think we can also turn it around, and we can still be subversive and provocative without actually triggering the actual censorship. That's our challenge.
Definitely agree with you, and I can see there's the observations in Hong Kong. The youngest photographers begins to use some subtle way, creative way to express themselves about the social issues, political issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with your comment, because that is my favorite part playing while I am doing my books with my artists. That once there is a censorship policy, and then some of my artists are trying to play with it, and the way how we see they can do the zigzag, that they play with the rule, I think it's a beautiful game. It is, and here's a to reply what you commented, I do have a very, very interesting little story to share, because we all know China, where I came from, the country has a strong policy for some yes, some no, right? So one time we got we need to pass some sort of administration process to get the permission to print a book as normal, right? We got a feedback. It's a work about a typical youth story in China. It's a documentary, beautiful documentary, portraitures through 3 decades. But some of them has nudity, maybe not nudity in full, but some very important parts of body. Let's take it like this. So on the feedback, the paper feedback, this book got rejected by the first time. I was wondering, okay, more or less I see the reason, but how it comes exactly which page, and then I check on the lines. They said so many tits, not even too many, so many tits, and I love this story.
Can I share one example? So I lived in Hong Kong, during 2013 to 2020. Then I had to leave and come back. I came back to live in England. And if I'm allowed, can I share this book? So this book, it says, How Many More Must Die? And in this book, I used to take photographs of the ground in Hong Kong because there are many cockroaches. So every page we have a tragedy. These poor cockroaches, because they're wonderful creatures, to be fair. But in 2019, I heard that the government and the police, when they talked about the protesters, they called them cockroaches. So this is a book, How Many More Must Die? So it's a little bit subversive commentary about the situation in 2019.
Thank you for sharing this story. So let's get back from the censorship and all the policies and talking more about Photobook itself. So Mark, you have worked extensively to bring Japanese and many other Asian photo books to a more global readership through Sha and Zen Photo, right? So what have you learned from that experience? Or let's say, what kind of interest or demand do you observe from the international context for Asian photo books?
Well, first of all, it's been encouraging to find so much interest. I think the interest goes both ways. It goes from west to east and east to west. So certainly it's going both ways. But I think I mentioned earlier when I started the gallery and I was introducing some Chinese photography into the gallery in Tokyo. Within 1 or 2 years, I was the gallery was featured in Chinese photography magazine. And many photographers came to the to show, to try to share their works, to give us the opportunity to show their works in Tokyo. So I think it shows that there is a tremendous demand, there's a tremendous need and desire on the part of the artist and the photographer to share their work around the world, both in their home country and internationally. So I think that latent need and demand is certainly there. But what I also learned is that and probably why it's difficult, why it's relatively rare, is it's a difficult thing to do. Running a gallery and selling books and producing books, there's no profit, there's no money really to be made. So with a very small staff, 2 gallery staff and 1 or 2 sha staff. With all of that, we have to find artists, discuss the books, design the books, publish the books, sell the books, create exhibitions, deal with all the tax, all the shipping, all the commercial aspects. It's a very, as a very small operation, you have to deal with so many complicated problems. So I found, it's very difficult. But on the other hand, it's very, it's very rewarding to be part. To me, I feel it's a great privilege to be part of that process, to be involved with the sharing of these art works around the world.
Yeah, so to reply what you said, my parents, I think they have a perfect resume for our job of being a publisher. It's turning paper money into paper. So, here do you work as a curator as well as an organizer in Hong Kong, right? So how do you position your work and the Hong Kong publishing in a very general way with the global context in the conversation? And what has been the response from from the international audience that you received from the touring exhibition and the Demi Award, that everything the festival provided?
And I say positioning local publishing in a global context is really finding ways to tell story that are root into this space, but that also connect with a broader themes or share experience. From my experience, traveled the Dummy Award travel worldwide, and I joined many Photobook festival. A lot of international audience are very curiosity about Hong Kong, especially in recent years. So when they see photo book or our photo books or scenes that touch things like identity, urban life, politics, or memory, even they don't really know the context. They respond to the emotion, the aesthetics, or just the human story behind the work. And I noticed this especially at the Photobook fairs, especially Photobook fairs and Photobook festival. For example, when we bring Hong Kong-based publications to Taipei, New Zealand, people often surprised at the diversities of voices and also the level of craft and experimentations. There's this idea that Hong Kong is mostly a commercial or fast paced, but when they see this quiet, personal, touching, or sometimes political words, they really shift their perception. And at the same time, I think it's important we don't try to explain Hong Kong to outsider. Instead, we can represent the world as it is. And just the audience will engage with it in their own way. I think that will the interesting conversation happens. Yeah.
And also, I'm quite curious because I think it's the common situation for three of us under the label Asia Pacific, for the brand, for the festival, for the gallery, and for the publishing house. The label Asia Pacific, does it help to build the visibility, or to your opinion, it's a risk flattening the complexity of the region?
I don't really have an opinion on that. Sorry. I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just take it like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, you are what you are.
Yeah.
And people can judge for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they like it or not like it, it's fine. Yeah.
I think it can be used strategically, and it helps to open up the visibility of those who underrepresent, like Indonesia, even Hong Kong may not be appear in the European photo market or photo scene. Yeah.
It's interesting what you just said, because that was sort of a strategical card that I took when I founded La Maison des Arts in 2014. By that time, I found Chinese photography, specifically Chinese contemporary photography, was not much seen here in the mainstream of European market. That's why I started by distributing Chinese artist book that I make my selection every year, and then I do the pop-ups, or I sell to bookshop or museum for the authors. And it worked. I have to say, it worked for a while in the very beginning, because people are curious, like Chinese photography, yes. Contemporary photography, yes. But Chinese contemporary photography, what is it? And it has lasted a while till I would say 2018, 2019. I do feel there's a sort of trend here that people start to getting more and more attention within the field, in my very field that I am working on. And then afterwards, the pandemic stopped everything, reshaped a lot of things. Now I feel I'm more agree to what you say. It is what it is, and we just leave the speaking role to the audience, right? Then, when we speak of all these labels, what do you think about the most pressing material or financial challenge that you have encountered? I'm sure we all have some sort of challenges through the time.
Well, first of all, the books don't sell very many. That's a problem. So if we could sell 20 or 30,000 books, it would be a very easy business. But if you can only sell 300, 500, or take 3 years to sell 700 books, it's really difficult. And at the same time, in photography, film is declining, but it's not gone. Of course, it will continue for many years. But as the film is declining, there are many fewer types of film, many fewer types of paper, and the cost is going up quite dramatically. It's probably gone up 10 times in 10 years. Used to be able to buy the film for about 200 yen in Japan, and now it's about 2,300 yen. So, and then also producing the books, it's more expensive. There are fewer papers to choose when you want to make the book, and also the paper is costing more and more. Because the paper companies are selling less and less paper, not only for photo books but also for newspapers, for publicity, and so on. The paper, it's not exactly dying, but is definitely strongly diminishing, and so we are actually one of the few areas of paper demand which is still there, and actually in a way is growing. Because I think connecting back to the point you made about, young people wanted, and, you said also, Hildy, people want to express themselves in the book and, keep the physical book and enjoy the process and making something unique, interesting. This demand is probably growing. I know it's shown in the popularity of these events in various countries in the world, whether it's Hong Kong or France or wherever. But these are the problems. It gets less and less profitable, or more losses. It's very much harder to make it as a sustainable economic business. That's the problem.
Which is true, but I think still producing in Japan stays and maintains a big luck that you still have Takio as one of the biggest paper factory in the world. There's in Japan and in Italy they also have beautiful brands, which is more accessible. Then the other side for Hong Kong as well, to running a photo book festival, because it is a very precise and special thing. What do you think it is the current challenge, materially or financially, or in terms of organization it is compared to the environment?
As organizers of the Photobook Festival, we have the challenge in both financial and logistic logistics. As I mentioned before, we have lost the funding from the government. We heavily rely on the government's funding. Once we lost the funding, we can't do anything. We can't sustain, and we lost our exhibition space as well. So the rent for hiding a space for exhibition or for events is high in Hong Kong. So and there's few indoor venue for cultural programs are very not so many places for this event. So this is we are in a tough time now.
Followed up by this question, I have another followed up question, that if you could let's say, develop or invent a new ecosystem to support the whole photo book industry, what's gonna be that you want to add to the plate?
I think at this moment, I think the venue is not so important. If we can share some resources with other partner in the region, so we can travel the exhibitions, the experts across the region, and we can have some partnerships to share the resources. As I mentioned, I observed in last month, we go to Taiwan Photobook exhibition and talk to a few publishers. Basically, Tokyo, Kyoto, yes, Kyoto photo book market in May, Taiwan photo one market in May, and Hong Kong photo book in April. There's very close together. I think there's can we the organizers can sit down to discuss about the schedule, and so that the publisher or the artist or even the audience can travel around to have a look at the photo book or the exhibitions. I think this is what I now, at this moment, think about the ecosystem.
Actually, this type of a photo book market marathon has already happened once. I don't know if Mark remember, was not last year, but probably 2 or 3 years ago. There was a art book in Taipei, Seoul Art Book Festival and Tokyo Art Book Festival. They lined up together in 3 different weekends after Paris Photo to facilitate European publishers to go in one shot. But according to, I have a few publisher friends went there for 3 different weeks. And of course, it's always amazing to meet local people and develop and discover a new market and new countries with different art book fairs and photo book fairs, of course. But it's really a tiring work. So I'm carrying back to Mark on the Japanese side, that if you could add a new policy or new thing into the ecosystem, what do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, I think removing tax on books and reintroducing the postal rate for printed matter, because now it's very expensive to send books internationally, and it's a strong discouragement to buy books online from the other countries. It makes it very difficult to sell internationally, and of course, it's nice to come here, but everyone who comes here has to pay the airfares and the cost, the cost of the books, and sometimes also the employees and so on. So I think those are quite simple things, but that's just a dream. Yeah. Also, I think listening to you talking and what you mentioned about the let's say young people going to find a new space, a new place. I really agree with your comment there, and we definitely see that in Japan. You can get houses in nice places for almost nothing, because Japan is seeing the depopulation of the rural areas, and there are many empty houses. You can, get a house for, actually you can get a house for nothing in some places, or in other places it's almost zero. And I think what that is, and we're seeing, as you said, we're seeing the people going out to use these places, and refurbish the houses and the farmhouses which have been empty for maybe decades. And I think that's a phenomenon which you see, for example, in London. The East End of London used to be very, very cheap, very, very cheap land and rent. And so you got a lot of artists going into the area, like Shoreditch. Well, now Shoreditch is extremely fashionable, lots of art galleries, but it used to be super cheap. So I think we're seeing that phenomenon in Japan, actually. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's centered on one particular area because so many areas have very cheap property available. And actually, that's an opportunity for people. It's the same thing. Wasn't Berlin like that? Berlin used to be extremely cheap, post-communist. Now it's a very fashionable place, I think.
So since we don't have much time left, so I gonna to shot the last question and the final one. I know some of us, I see very familiar faces. We are also publisher based outside of Japan or outside of Hong Kong. What are you going to give as advice for a non-Asian based publisher if ever they want to step or give a try to the Asia Pacific photo book market?
No comment.
I'm just thinking. So advice to the publishers regarding the Asian market. Yeah, sure. Go. Go take your book, sell them. Join as Jen and Hildy. Go to the Hong Kong Photobook Festival. Go to Tokyo Art Book Fair. Of course, it's hard work. It's a long way. It's a bit expensive to get there, but you can join in a very thriving scene for independent photo books and go and enjoy it and make friends, make contacts. Look for the opportunity to stay there, to make your work there, do a residency. I think, what I found actually when I initially established Hong Kong Photo Book Fair, what was so special to me was I could see people came from Shanghai, from Taiwan, from local Hong Kong, from Japan, and then the friendships and the connections were made there, and it created more projects, more friendships, and that was one of the most special aspects of that event for me.
Mark has say what I said. Actually, what I to do the aims of Photo Book Festival is to make like a meeting place like you, to get different publishers from all over the world to meet the Hong Kong photographer artists and try to promote Hong Kong artists to different country. And what the advice to the emerging photographers or artists is hardworking, keep consistency to make network with different publisher, photo book organizers. Yeah.
So thank you both of you for the very useful and the advices. And from my point of view, I have much more practical tips from my personal experience. Don't go on summer except you love the 40-degree heat, and don't totally trust Google review on the restaurants. Sometimes, we don't really know the local places. That's all. So thank you for coming. If you still have some time, Hildy with Hong Kong Photo Book Festival is having a booth here, and Zen Photo Gallery is also here. And La Maison de Z, we are a little bit far away that you need the courage to walk 15 minutes down to Face of Luma. We are at the ENSP every day until Saturday. So thank you, everyone.